In this guide, I will quickly show you in the order of progression how to gather each resource, best locations for finding each resource, what can be built from them, and some tips for that resource if I have any. After you've watched the video, you will know which resources you should focus on and which ones are okay to leave behind. Starting from the ones you'll find at the seabed once you begin the game, number 1, scrap metal. This is the most abundant resource that you will find everywhere. Anything that looks like it has metal or is made of metal will have it. It's also needed in almost everything, but it doesn't mean you have to collect all of it. If backpack is full, this is the first resource that I get rid of. As a general rule, the farther you are from your base, the less scrap you want to collect. Because all the resources in this game respawn, you can dive to seabed near your bed anytime and collect all the scrap that you need, so don't waste any time carrying scrap from the other edges of the map. Also, every island that you visit will have scrap, so you don't have to carry any just to make a scrap metal spear that is needed to claim an island. And if you didn't know, to claim an island you need a faction flag, which is crafted from scrap metal spear, which you have to research in a research table before you can make one. Food plank. Collection of food planks requires an axe, which you can only craft after collecting random branches on the ground on one of the neutral islands. Once you make it, wood planks become the second most abundant resource in the game that you can easily get by chopping down trees and dismantling cabinets, chairs, tables, and a multitude of other furniture. To store both wood planks and scrap metal, I advise these two storage options. I have found them to be more convenient than dealing with boxes. Cloth is very abundant but doesn't exist separately from other scrap, so you don't get to choose when to pick it up or not. This also means you can't hunt for it exclusively. The way I approach this is I don't waste my time dismantling tables and chairs, since those will 100% only have planks, and instead I only disassemble barrels, cabinets, and beds like these where there's a chance of getting cloth. This way my inventory doesn't burst at the seams from all the planks that I don't need. At the very start though, you might want to collect them all, you'll need them. The most common use of cloth is crafting duct tapes and ropes, both of which are important crafting materials but are not often needed. Other than that, it is mainly used for smokeless powder later in the game to make advanced ammo for your guns, as well as bandages, but bandages don't do anything except stop bleeding, so there is no reason to keep more than a few in your inventory. Leave the rest at your base, and if you're out and about, feel free to throw out the extra. I never had a situation where I didn't have any cloth. Components. This one's fairly abundant, but you're likely to feel shortage at some point, because many buildings in the game require them. So don't waste these. Most importantly, don't use them as ingredients for stuff you can easily collect, and don't use them for building unless you know that you need that building right now. The best place for collecting components is the underwater machine factory, where you can find an abundance of wheels, cars, and trucks. Components are also found in lockers, waste bins, and inside solar panels. Rubber is hard to get in the starting area as only 3 places are likely to contain it: trucks, tractors, and tire piles. Later on you will find it in loot drops and boxes, but for now it's only those 3. Rubber is needed in many recipes you need at the start, such as furnaces, armor workshop, advanced purifier, duct tape, etc. So just like components, don't recycle rubber into other materials and don't rush to build things out of it. Prioritize. The most important things to spend rubber on is the second research tier: air tank, you need to find blueprint first, air filling station, and furnace. Once you unlock research tier 3, use it for armor workshop first. Next is leather, which you can obtain by looting crates, dismantling couches, or killing sharks and converting their skin to leather. It's not useful for anything except crafting armor, so having about 1 slot's worth in your chest should be enough. It's also needed for crafting backpack, which I recommend you make as soon as you can, though if I remember correctly you'll have to find a blueprint first. Do make the sack though, it should be available from the start. Speaking of armor, before you can craft any advanced armor you will have to find broken armor parts. On top of that, you will also have to research an armor workbench and then build it. That's the general loop in this game, so you almost always need to have double the resources for finishing a recipe. But let's say you have the stable. So to craft a Spetsnaz helmet, you first have to find a skeleton of one and then combine it with other materials to create one. You don't need more than one, thankfully. Just build yourself a repair station, and when your armor breaks, approach the station and click F multiple times to repair it quickly. Also, most armor, as well as the best backpack in the game, require ballistic fiber. It's a very rare resource that you can only find inside chests and boxes, so make sure to never leave it behind. You can also buy some from a merchant if you ever need any. Charcoal won't ever be a problem for you. You can collect it from purifiers, grills, bonfires, smelter, and other buildings that burn wood. The only use for it is inside of high temperature furnace or when combined with sulfur to make black powder. You will have hundreds of it, so don't conserve it. Sulfur is a resource that you will find around hydrothermal vents, of which there's plenty in the starting area. Just bring your pickaxe. You don't need much. Just about 5 nodes should be enough for the whole game for you to use before you transition to better ammo and guns. Black powder. With charcoal and sulfur you can make black powder, which you use as the ingredient for black powder ammo. It's a resource that you can also find in barrels on enemy bases if you run low during a fight. As soon as I transitioned to better guns, I stopped making or collecting it. Glass. Glass can be found by scavenging cars and solar panels on the seafloor and on land. It's used to make buildings and craft things like water bottle. Speaking of water bottle, I found that if I drink before leaving home, I have no need for a water bottle. Most often I will find some soda or energy drink as I scavenge, so a water bottle is just dead weight. And glass itself is pretty abundant and you don't need too much of it unless you're building your walls and floors out of glass, which, by the way, are pretty durable and won't break when attacked as easily as you might think. Iron ore is hard to come by accident, so make an ore detector. When you hold it, click left or right mouse button to cycle through different ores. The detector will show you how far you are from the nearest node in any direction, either vertical or horizontal. So when you are moving forward and the numbers start going up again, it means you should have made a turn or dove down. You can find the node on the Castaway Island, the first neutral island you're likely to find, and it looks like this. Other than that, you'll have to look for most of your iron ore underwater. It's the resource you'll never have enough of. It's used for smelting steel ingots, making axes and swords, armor, benches, and something called modern parts that are needed to make many late-game items. I would advise you to make more than one furnace to make smelting quicker, and once you have a chance to build an electrolytic furnace. You can see just how faster it is at converting your ores into ingots. Additionally, if you build a recycler, you can throw in all the armor parts that you find and get a lot of iron ingots in return. Now, copper ore is similar, except you cannot find it underwater, barring just one place. The way to get it is to raid enemy bases. You can check which ones have it by opening a map and clicking on them. For example, there's some on this base, but you don't have to clear out the whole island before mining it. Just get rid of the enemies in the immediate vicinity, and that should make it safe enough to mine some for your immediate needs of improving your research bench and making better weapons to be able to clear out the island later. Once you get your hands on better equipment, I recommend going to the Green Isle. It has the most copper ore, 3 nodes, but you have to fight for it. There's also one location where you can get some without fighting anyone, a place called Floating Refuge. There's 2 copper nodes underwater here, but don't forget your ore detector. Copper is needed for more than advancing research. You will need it constantly to make advanced ammo, so if I were you, I would start collecting it as soon as I can, because there isn't that much in the world and you have to wait for it to respawn. However, if you found any gun parts yet, you can recycle them in the recycler for 1 copper ingot each, but more on that later. Similarly, quartz is only available in a few locations, but it's also barely needed for anything. It's also easy to miss because it is tiny, so bring your ore detector and look for small crystals on the seabed. After upgrading your research, you'll be able to build many workshops that require power. Don't bother with the manual generator. There are solar panels on many rooftops in the starting area and wind turbines in mid-game locations, and if you collect them and repair them, you'll have a source of energy that doesn't need any input and produces power even at night. Somehow, just research Jukebox, take some rubber, and plug all your solar panels or wind turbines and power-hungry buildings into it. Cotton is only needed for furniture. If you don't intend to get fancy with your beds, you don't need to grow or collect any. You can also convert it to cloth, but it's inefficient, so don't do that unless you have hundreds of cotton. Now, all the following materials will only be findable in boxes, waste containers and lockers around the world. Do collect all the duct tape at first as it's an advanced material. Later on, when you have plenty of rubber and cloth, it's fine to throw it out. Same with parts, except don't ever throw them out. It's very hard to produce them on your own and they're needed for most advanced things. Just don't waste them on delicate sea bucket, it's useless. Make advanced purifier instead. Also, don't bother making a harpoon gun, it takes too many resources for very little gain. There's not many sharks in the game currently to bother, and you don't really need to do any hunting for food. Build a fish pond and fill it with salt water, and you'll never need food ever again. The fish will just spawn in the pool on its own. Electronic parts are needed for most electronic things.
Well done.
Don't ever skip them. You'll need them, for example, to make batteries and battery chargers, which are needed for powering your underwater scooters and headlights and such. To use them, just drag the battery over your device. Once the battery is empty, click middle mouse button to take it out and put it in the charger. Chemical substance is used to make smokeless powder that is needed for ammo. It's also used for gasoline as well as advanced things like heavy-duty battery or hydraulic system. Very important, but I found that I usually have more than I need because I don't use the motorboat. Why? Because it's not much faster than the sailboat and the distances aren't really that big in this game, while the jet ski doesn't have any storage space and I lost interest in the game before I discovered the blueprint for the fast boat. Gun parts. These are only needed to make... gun parts? Components, actually, that you need to assemble to make a weapon. The way it works is you build a gun workshop, then pick a weapon you want to make, and then you have to have a number of core components to assemble it. You can add additional modules to improve it. The thing is that these components can be found in the world by the dozens, while blueprints for making them on your own are rare. Let's take a look at this example. I need 3 gun parts to make one double-barreled fine iron receiver, and I need at least 3 such components to make one double-barrel shotgun. But I have only found one blueprint for one part of the shotgun so far, and it will take me an eternity to find all of them to make it, considering there's something like 100 blueprints available. On top of that, I already have all the individual components I need to make the shotgun without needing any of these blueprints. And so the takeaway is that gun parts, the way they are implemented right now, are useless. But they're essentially copper ore in disguise. Throw them into a recycler and you'll have yourself 1 copper ingot and 2 rubber per each gun part. Neat. Also, you should collect all the gun components because even when you do, it takes quite a while before you can assemble your own weapon, and once you have something like a rifle, which is the ultimate weapon in this game, you're the king of this game. So make it a priority. What about these items with $sign? Well, you'll have to go to the trader to sell them and get some silver coins in return, which you can then spend on gun component blueprints or other blueprints. I didn't find this particularly useful, and managing these tradable items and then bringing them to the merchant have mostly been a waste of my time. I do expect this to change as the game gets updated though. As I said before, I don't use gasoline-powered boats, but it's likely the game will have more useful boats added in the future. You can find it in barrels and police cars, along with some ammo, and I would collect it all as you can't be sure if you'll want it or not. Either way, you can do fine without it, and if you ever need to produce some, you can do so in the biofuel station, which requires chemical substance and wood. And finally, Anatase, the rarest mineral in the game so far, can be found on faction islands and looks like this. You will need it to produce titanium strips that are then used in automated turrets and endgame boats. As of this video's recording, every resource respawns in this game, even the garbage piles, so revisit the places that you've already conquered for easy resources. The map will lead the way. Also, build more advanced buildings that require rarer materials behind inner walls or on second floors, somewhere where raiders won't easily get to them and will instead focus on something else. You don't want to constantly rebuild workbenches that you had spent hours collecting resources for. And that's all I have for you today. Check out my other videos, subscribe, eat a cake, ride a scooter, sail a boat, watch a movie, build a Lego submarine, hydrate, and don't bully your younger siblings.